The Ferryman. The Ferryman is actually the very first demon in the Conjureverse timeline, and his roots go way back, like 500 BCE back, when the Greeks imagined Charon, the grim boatman of Hades. Born to Nyx, goddess of night, and Erebus, god of darkness, his job was simple but terrifying. Ferry the dead across the river Styx, but only if they had coins to pay. No payment? Tough luck. Your soul would wander for 100 years, stuck like a broke tourist stranded without bus fare. That's why silver coins on the eyes became his trademark, creepy, but also hilariously bureaucratic, like the Grim Reaper running a toll booth. For centuries, he was just a myth, but in the early 1900s, things took a darker turn. Case files and photos from 1921 show victims with coins over their eyes, dressed in late Victorian clothes, hinting that the ferryman had stepped off the vase paintings and into reality. According to Ed and Lorraine Warren's early files, they first encountered him while searching for a missing girl. It was one of their earliest cases in their profession. People whispered about coins dropping in the night and warned, "If you don't pay his toll, he'll take your soul." The Warrens tracked him down, discovered his tether, the very coin purse he used on his victims, and managed to trap him inside it. Fast forward to 1972, when Daniela, a curious teen, cracked open the Warrens' artifact room in Annabelle Comes Home. Out spilled every nightmare, including the ferryman, who terrorized Judy and her friends with coin tricks and catacomb illusions. By the end, he was shoved back into his cursed pouch. And where is he now? Still sealed away, waiting in the shadows, like a demonic Uber driver endlessly parked with no passengers. Malthus, the demon behind Annabelle. Malthus is the demon that made Annabelle more than just a creepy doll. His story goes way back to 20 BCE, when his name first appeared in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Those texts mention Belial, the devil himself, and under him sit demons like Malthus and Valak. Later, in the Lesser Key of Solomon, Malthus shows up as an Earl of Hell, a high-ranking officer in Hell's management team, not just some wandering ghoul. For centuries, he was nothing more than ink on parchment. Then came worshippers, a cult known as the Disciples of the Ram formed in his honor, devoted to his horned, charred image. His chance for real-world havoc came in 1943. Samuel and Esther Mullins lost their daughter, Bee, and in their grief, they were tricked. Malthus pretended to be Bee's spirit and asked to live inside her doll. The parents said yes, and the Annabelle doll became his Trojan horse. From there, Malthus worked his way through the 3 stages of possession: infestation, oppression, and finally takeover. He tormented the Mullins, latched onto Janice, an orphan with polio, and corrupted her into Annabelle Higgins, the girl who would later worship him. At the same time, part of him remained tied to the doll, giving him 2 paths for destruction. By 1972, Daniela accidentally opened his case in Annabelle Comes Home and released Malthus again. That Satan turned the Warrens' house into a haunted funhouse, hunting Judy and her friends. In the end, they shoved him back into the glass case, where he still lies trapped, furious, and waiting for the next careless hand. Valak the Nun. Valak is the big boss of the Conjureverse, and easily the creepiest nun you'll ever meet. Chronologically, its first mention dates back to around 500 CE, when stories described a serpent-linked demon. In the Ars Goetia, Valak wasn't a nun at all, but a winged child riding a dragon, ranked as a president of Hell. Somewhere along the way, that form twisted into the black-veiled figure we know today, because what better way to terrify people than to corrupt something holy? The real trouble began in the Dark Ages, when the Duke of St. Carta, a ruthless occultist, summoned Valak in his Romanian castle. The church intervened, sealed it using the blood of Christ, and turned the castle into the Abbey of St. Carta. For centuries, the nuns kept up prayers as a kind of living barrier, but the seal cracked during World War II bombings. By 1952, Valak had broken free and slaughtered nearly every sister in the abbey. That's when the Vatican sent Father Burke and a young novitiate named Sister Irene. Irene wasn't chosen at random. She was gifted with prophetic visions, and as later revealed, she was Lorraine Warren's cousin. The church believed her visions could be the key to confronting whatever haunted the abbey, and they were right. Guided by those visions, Irene discovered and wielded the relic containing Christ's blood, using it to banish Valak. But in true demonic fashion, Valak cheated the system, attaching itself to Maurice Frenchy Theriot as it was forced back, carrying its influence into the wider world. Through the 1950s and 1970s, Valak resurfaced, first through Frenchy, and later in The Conjuring 2 during the infamous Enfield case, There it hid behind the ghost of Bill Wilkins and even appeared as the Crooked Man, keeping the Warrens guessing. Lorraine eventually uncovered its name: Valak, the Defiler, the Profane, the Marcus of Snakes, and used that knowledge to send it back to hell. La Llorona, the Weeping Woman, is one of the most debated figures in the Conjureverse. Director Michael Chavez swears the curse of La Llorona isn't part of the franchise, but that feels like Hollywood backpedaling. Why? Because Annabelle gets name-dropped, Father Perez returns from Annabelle, and the curse follows the same demonic playbook as Valak and Malthus. She's in, whether the credits admit it or not. Her story begins in 1673 in Mexico. Heartbroken after her partner's betrayal, a young mother drowned her children in a river. Overcome with regret, she took her own life, but the curse transformed her into La Llorona, forever weeping and searching for children she'll never get back. The legend digs deeper into colonial wounds. Spanish men often fathered children with indigenous women, only to abandon them. La Llorona became a symbol of that grief, which is why her story feels less like a ghost tale and more like cultural trauma passed down generations. Centuries later, her curse resurfaces in 1973 Los Angeles. Ana Garcia, a widowed social worker, encounters Patricia Alvarez, who had prayed to La Llorona after losing her sons, and accidentally passed the curse to Anna's kids. Like Valak and Malthus, La Llorona feeds on the vulnerable. Anna turns to Father Perez, who directs her to Raphael, a curandero with fire seed rituals. In the climax, Anna pierces La Llorona with a fire tree cross, disintegrating her. But in the Conjureverse, defeated usually means see you later. And by the rivers, her cries still echo, La Llorona waiting for her next family. Bathsheba Sherman. Bathsheba Sherman might just be the Conjureverse's OG witch. And unlike Valak or Malthus, she doesn't come from dusty grimoires. She's straight out of New England's backyard. Born Bathsheba Thayer in 1812. She married Judson Sherman in 1844, and eventually moved with him to a big farm in Harrisville. But this wasn't your typical farm life. By 1870, legend says Judson caught her sacrificing their baby to Satan. Instead of defending herself, Bathsheba pulled the ultimate dramatic exit. She hung herself from a tree and cursed anyone who dared to live on her land. And yes, it was the same creepy tree Lorraine later sees in The Conjuring. From there, the land basically turned into a horror Airbnb. A boy drowned, a maid died by suicide, and in the 1930s, Mrs. Walker killed her son Rory before hanging herself, all whispering the same excuse, "She made me do it." Then came 1971, and the Perron family, who had no idea they were moving into Bathsheba's turf. Almost immediately, they got the full package deal. Bruises, rotten smells, and a ghost with a serious grudge against Carolyn Perron. Things escalated until Carolyn was possessed, forcing the Warrens to step in. Only Carolyn's love for her family snapped her out of it, and Bathsheba's spirit was trapped in that now iconic cursed music box. But witches like Bathsheba don't clock out. In 1972, Judy Warren was attacked the same way the Perron girls were, dragged by the ankle. Whether it was Bathsheba herself or Malthus doing an impression, one thing's clear: curses age better than fine wine, and Bathsheba's never really gone. Isla Castner, the occultist. Isla Castner, better known as the occultist, proves you don't need horns or fangs to be terrifying. You just need bad life choices and a satanic hobby. Born in 1932, she was the secret daughter of Father Castner, a Connecticut priest who hid her in an old mill after her mother died in childbirth. For 20 years, she lived off the radar. Then one day in 1952, she bolted, swapping Daddy's sermons for satanic cult meetings. By 1969, Father Castner had his suspicions. He quietly began studying a cult called the Disciples of Ram, the same cult devoted to worshipping Malthus, believing Isla had fallen in with them. He was right, and by 1981, she resurfaced with her own agenda. Back at the mill, she built a dark altar and invoked a Stregoria curse written centuries earlier. This spell was brutal. It demanded 3 sacrifices: the lover, the child, and the man of God. Through witches' totems, Isla set her plan into motion. Her plan kicked off with David Glatzel's exorcism, where she used dark magic to give Ed Warren a heart attack. When David slipped free, the curse jumped onto Arne Johnson, who later stabbed his landlord while possessed, launching the iconic "Devil Made Me Do It" case. But Isla wasn't satisfied with that headline. She tried to level up by making Ed kill Lorraine, turning the Warrens into her personal endgame. Luckily, Lorraine dragged Ed back with a memory of their first meeting. Romance beats curses, apparently. Ed smashed the altar, the curse snapped, and Isla's own demon collected her soul like an overdue bill. Unlike Valak or Malthus, Isla shows that sometimes the scariest monster isn't supernatural at all. It's just a human who took a very wrong turn at life's crossroads. The Crooked Man. The Crooked Man began as an English nursery rhyme first printed in the 1840s. At face value, it was just a silly verse about crooked houses and crooked cats, but some historians think it had real roots. One theory says the Crooked Man was Sir Alexander Leslie, a Scottish general who struck a shaky truce with England in the 1600s. Another points to the leaning houses of Lavenham, Suffolk, where the whole village looked a little bent out of shape. Over time, the rhyme turned darker. Later versions described the Crooked Man as a broken figure who hanged himself and returned as a ghostly presence. Say the rhyme out loud, and he would appear, following you down his crooked path. That's the version the Conjuring 2 brings to life. But here's the catch. In the Conjureverse, the Crooked Man isn't his own demon. He's Valak in disguise. Just as Valak appears as the nun, it also slips into this spindly, pale figure with unnatural movements, chanting the rhyme in a warped voice. It's Valak's trick, taking something familiar from childhood and turning it into nightmare fuel to terrorize the Hodgson family. The design made him unforgettable. Created with practical effects and a real actor instead of heavy CGI, the Crooked Man felt like something physically wrong with the world, as if the nursery rhyme had stepped off the page. Fans loved the scare so much that James Wan planned a Crooked Man spin-off, pitched as a dark fairy tale. A script was even written, but once audiences obsessed over Valak's nun form, Warner Brothers pushed the nun forward instead. By 2022, Wan admitted the Crooked Man movie was shelved, though he still has ideas for it. The Bride. On August 10th, 1963, Ed and Lorraine Warren opened a case they called The Bride, or The Wedding Dress. This wasn't about investigating a pretty gown, it carried a violent curse. Any bride who wore it was overwhelmed with rage and pushed to murder her groom. Judy Warren later put it simply, "The wedding dress, it haunts people, makes them violent." The story connects to a real legend, Anna Baker's haunted wedding dress from 1800s Pennsylvania. Anna's gown was never worn, and people believed her heartbreak and bitterness clung to the fabric, feeding ghostly activity. That makes The Bride feel less like pure fiction and more like folklore brought to life. While it's slightly different in the Conjureverse, The Bride's ghost traces back to Quinn Lane. When she caught her fiancé cheating, she lost it, murdering him, both their parents, and even gouging out their eyes. Talk about a wedding reception gone wrong. Her spirit then fused with her wedding dress, which had a chilling party trick. After every killing, the blood just disappeared, leaving it spotless and ready for the next unlucky bride to be. After a string of bloody ceremonies, the Warrens finally got hold of the cursed gown, blessed it, and locked it away in their artifact room. But in Annabelle Comes Home, Daniela couldn't resist poking around and ended up freeing Annabelle. That one mistake frees every trapped spirit, including the bride, releasing a night of pure chaos. All night long, Judy, Mary Ellen, Daniela, and Bob are hunted. The bride even possesses Daniela, forcing her into the dress and nearly driving her to kill Mary Ellen. By the end, the girls manage to trap Annabelle back in her case, cutting off the bride's power, at least for now. And as Judy says, the evil was contained this time. But some stories don't end that way. In some, the evil wins, and those endings stay with you long after the credits roll. Click on the screen to watch When Villains Win. Fiction's most brilliant endings explained.